record. This session is being recorded.
Welcome. We've got just a few of you on the line today, and we're super excited to be presenting our webinar on relevance and work-based learning in projects. Hopefully you will walk away with some great resources and some information on how to move your projects forward. Before we get started, Lacey's going to cover kind of just how to go over the Adobe Connect format.
Yeah, hi. So my name is Lacey Boatman. Angela Higdon and I are both at the Napa County Office of Education as your technical assistance providers for our CTIG grant. So if you're new to Adobe Connect, we cannot see or hear you, but you can see us up at the top and you can hopefully hear us. You can communicate with us via the chat box. So we've already been chatting and Tina's been chatting with us. There's also some icons that you can use up at the top. There's a little person with a hand up icon, and if you click the drop down arrow, there's a series of icons you can choose. So let's practice and go ahead and click agree if you're having a good day and disagree if you're not having a good day. So on the little participants, you should be able to see a green check box or a red X if you disagree. And I see some of you don't have anything. If you have questions or you're confused, go ahead and type it into the chat box. One more time where to click. There's at the top bar in Adobe Connect, there should be a little person with their hand raised as an icon, and you click the little arrow next to it, the drop down arrow, and then there's a series of icons. Tina, I see you got it. Sandy and Janet, not sure if you're having troubles or not, and you're welcome, Tina. If you want to clear your icon, Tina, you just go and click it again. You don't have to do the drop down arrow to click on it again to clear it. You just click there, you got it. And if you are confused, go ahead and add a question into the chat. We might have some latecomers. If people are new to Adobe Connect, it can take time to install. And Sandy's typing a message, so just want to make sure everyone is good to go. There's also, if you think we're funny, there's a little laughter icon. If you want to applause, there's an applause icon. If we're too loud or too quiet, or if you need us to speed up or slow down, there's icons for all of those things. The chat feature is covering up the participants. That might be on your screen, or you're telling me that. There's no one else other than the four of you on right now. So it's okay. And you don't see the hand. The hand is the first. You don't see the hand at all. I don't know if I can share my screen for you to see my whole Adobe Connect because you have your version of it. It's, yeah, if Colleen or Tina have advice, it's a little icon at the top to the right of meeting. I don't know what you see as a participant and not as a host. Top bar near the left. It's a little person. And this is taking about 5 minutes. So, oh, it's on the left. I think you figured it out. Okay. Cool. Oh, good job, Sandy. You got it. And oh, look at us. Good job. Look. Oh, good job. Well done.
And if you just click those again, it'll clear your status for you.
Okay. Thank you all. Here we go. Let's dive in.
All right. So before we get started, we'd like to go ahead and just get some information on who's in the room. I think I know a couple of you. But if you could, in the chat box, just tell us what your role is, where you're located, and what you would like to make sure you take away from today. Just go ahead and add those responses in the chat box.
Welcome, Ukaya. I think maybe there's multiple people of you on from one user, not sure. We just got started. We are asking for people to add a bit about them to the chat box. So here's the chat box. You can type in. If you have multiple people with you, go ahead and just include maybe the names or roles of the people that are with you. And Ukaya, people, you can see and hear us, but we cannot see nor hear you.
Okay, great. So Sandy and Tina, it looks like you both are supporting teachers. So we can gear that a little bit more towards how you can support teachers than coming at it from a teacher standpoint. Okay. Same thing with Janet. And then Ukaya, it looks like we've got 3 CTE teachers on the line. Is that correct? Edwin, Lonnie, and Katrina.
Nice. Okay.
Okay, great.
Great.
Okay. So we'll go ahead and move forward from here.
Okay, so our goals for our short bit of time together are to see how work-based learning and project-based learning go hand in hand and how they're both high quality teaching and they're not separate entities. We hope that you gain ideas for making projects more relevant, whether you are a teacher or supporting teachers, and that you leave with resources for planning work-based learning and adult connections into your projects and into your curriculum and industry contacts, and that you see some examples of how high quality projects are relevant and how they incorporate work-based learning and industry contacts.
All right, so why is work-based learning so important? Why do we want to make sure that work-based learning is incorporated, excuse me, into your PBL, or why should you be doing PBL? So high quality project-based learning is extremely relevant, and it naturally embeds work-based learning into the work that you're doing. And so the two are not mutually exclusive. They go hand in hand. They can work very well together. And it's just a matter of creating that plan as you're putting your project together.
So we have a little poll that should pop up for you as I pull it up. Here we go. You should see this. I think somebody already clicked. So what is your experience in planning work-based learning activities into your projects? A 0 to 5 scale. 0, you've never planned work-based learning and you don't really know what we're talking about. And a 5, you're an expert and you can share some ideas and resources with other participants. Ukaya, can we get a copy of the presentation now? Sure. Un momento. Here we go, web links, this little icon. If you click on your end, presentation is the first link and you'll get, it will take you to a Google slide version of the presentation. And it will pull up on another tab. You're on it now, I can see you. It will pull up as another tab or a window in Adobe Connect, and you can go back into the Adobe Connect window through the Adobe Connect icon. If you have questions, just ask. I'll hide this away in a minute or just leave it over here. Trying to make it out of the way. Okay. Thanks for adding your stuff to the chat if you need anything or questions along the way. And we have a nice little range of experience. So our people not as experienced, that's great. Glad you're here. And our person who is more experienced, we hope you can share some insights with other participants. So I'll hide that away and we'll move on.
All right, so let's start talking a little bit about what we classify as high quality work-based learning. So I think when I think about high quality work-based learning, I think about activities that are focused on college and career readiness rather than only career or job readiness, not just college related, obviously. We're looking at experiences that are sequenced and coordinated rather than standalone. So being able to build along the work-based learning continuum is going to make for the highest quality work-based learning experiences that you can provide to your students. They should be supported by appropriate preparation and follow-up. So this would be something like making sure that your students are researching a company or a guest speaker prior to having that person come in so that they've got appropriate questions to ask. It should be integrated into your pathway program of study, connected to your classroom learning, and ideally it would be embedded into multidisciplinary projects rather than viewed as a separate or extra program or activity. I think a lot of times work-based learning tends to get pushed to the side as, you know, we just don't have time to do that right now, or we'll do it later in the year. And so in order to really create those high quality experiences, we'd encourage you to really look at either the project that you're working on or even just your curriculum and plan those experiences as you go through, and so that it's deliberately embedded into what you're doing. Okay, I think probably most of you have seen a work-based learning continuum of some kind. If there's anybody that hasn't, you know, we're happy to share multiple copies. This is the one that we came up with. It came from a few different work-based learning continuums that were floating around out there. The only thing that we did is kind of make it more CTE friendly. So rather than looking at activities along a grade level, we focused on what kinds of activities would be most appropriate for an intro course, what would be most appropriate for concentrators and capstones. And that way it's easier to break them down by your classes and your pathway versus trying to figure out, okay, I'm going to give a 9th grader this and a 10th grader that. In this work-based learning continuum, which we are providing to you, I think you can actually click on this and it'll open a bigger version. You've got some ideas of what kind of experiences might be included in those different levels, how those experiences are defined, some of the career readiness learning that could take place during that, and then some sample outcomes. I think one of the key pieces to a quality work-based learning experience is to really make sure that it's driven by your student outcomes, rather than looking at, oh, I have to do a job shadow or I have to do an internship. What is it that you're really trying to come out of that with? What do you want your students to know or to gain from that experience?
Okay, so high quality project-based learning. These items are from this site down here at the bottom, hqpbl.org, and you can click on it. It will take you to the page. I'm going to share my screen really quick so you can see it. So just bear with me for 5 seconds. Here we go. HQPBL is a newer group that is composed of a lot of partners, including Buck Institute for Education, High Tech High in San Diego, the New Tech Network, KQED, Project Management Institute, Google, lots of big players, and they came out with a framework that talks about these components of high quality PBL as the main pieces: intellectual challenge and accomplishment, authenticity, public product, collaboration, project management, and reflection as the big components. And a lot of these overlap with work-based learning and industry connections. This slide here, if you click on the image, it will open up the framework for you. So I'm just going to share my screen again really quick. And again, if you open up something from a link, you don't have to log back into our webinar. You should be able to open up the Adobe Connect window and still participate and see our screen. But if you have any issues and you log back in, that's totally okay too. So really quick, I'll share the screen for the framework. We won't go into and read this right now just because of a short webinar, but this is a great resource for you with further information on each of the components of what this group determines is important for high quality project-based learning. And you can look over it and read it and look at the pieces that really strongly connect with work-based learning and incorporate work-based learning. And even though work-based learning may not be spelled out, things like adult connections, relevance, there's a public product authenticity. It involves a lot of work-based learning components. So this is another resource for you. Again, you can click on it and it will open up a PDF version. I'm going to share just a larger version of this. There we go. This is a rubric that outlines the 6 A's of high quality project-based learning: authenticity, academic rigor, applied learning, active exploration, adult connections, and assessment practices. The 6 A's are really adopted by New Tech Network. That's what they use throughout their PBL. So I would like you to just take a minute or two to look over this rubric on your screen. I'll minimize it one more time. And look at the bullet points and think about which ones align with work-based learning and adult connections and industry connections. And if you see a bullet that you think really matches up with work-based learning, go ahead and add it to the chat. You're not able to copy and paste, but you can put in the first few words of the bullet. So if you're looking at this rubric and maybe even this first bullet here, entities or persons outside of the school will use the product of student work. If you think that relates to work-based learning, go ahead and add it to the chat. Thank you, Colleen. Yeah, persons outside the room will use the product. Yeah. So take a minute or two to look at this rubric and pull out some bullets you think align with work-based learning. Maybe I'll type up these instructions in a little note. Oh, I just covered up a lot of
Application to realistic and complex problems. That's really good. Apply knowledge to a realistic problem. Students have the opportunity to observe and work alongside adults in a work site relevant to the project. I love that one. Interview experts. Great.
I'm going to try to highlight. I think this is going to work. The ones you were saying.
Multiple contacts with the outside. Absolutely. These are great.
Okay, looks like you stopped working or stopped typing. Yeah, interview experts, students have multiple contacts, feedback from mentors, worksite explorations. Let's see, I do believe I have a version of this highlighted there with some of them highlighted that align with what you all mentioned. And you may have even seen some more that align with work-based learning that aren't highlighted here. But there's a lot of, this is a visual and a way to show you the overlap between work-based learning and project-based learning, that they're not separate things that take up separate time. It's all good instruction and high quality learning and deep learning experiences for students. That's really something we hope you take away from today, that you see how work-based learning, project-based learning really go hand in hand with each other to create high quality, meaningful learning experiences for students.
Okay, so we all, I think, agree that work-based learning is important, but I do also know that it can be difficult sometimes to get these things going. So what we'd love to do now is have you tell us what roadblocks you've encountered, or what are you hearing from teachers if you're working with teachers. What are they running into? in trying to incorporate work-based learning into their projects?
And you can select more than one. It's not a multiple choice, it's a check all. And if there's something here that's not listed, like the other category, you can go ahead and add it to the chat. Making industry connections, not enough time to plan,
Okay.
not enough time in course or curriculum if you're trying to meet so many things, and figuring out logistics. A couple people are typing, so maybe we'll just wait a sec to see what people have to say. No problem, Sandy. This is being recorded and we will share it out afterwards, the recording of it. So no worries. Thank you.
Okay, Yukaya, lack of resources, materials not to date. So in other words, are you speaking specifically of your class materials not being up to date? Funding, yes. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, funding is always a challenging one too. Okay, great.
Okay, let's hide that away.
Right. Go ahead and close that out. Thank you. Okay.
Okay, so integrating work-based learning into projects. I know funding can be difficult, but there are ways maybe that don't require funding. And there are some things that don't necessarily look like an internship or a job shadow that are still work-based learning and meaningful experiences for students. So one thing you can do is start by planning a project with an industry partner. That can be really beneficial for involving industry contacts into the project if you're planning it with an industry partner and getting their input on your project plan. If you have an industry partner as a client, so your students are working for a real purpose and creating something or solving a problem for a real client, and that client could be an industry partner. Creating an authentic context involving real world tasks, making a real world impact. So that's a project being purposeful and relevant, and we will look at examples of all of these in just a few minutes. Guest speakers during a project can happen in a variety of ways. They can be talking about a component of the project, teaching a component of the project, giving feedback to students, talking about their path into their career. Guest speaking can look a lot of different ways when it's linked to a project and not just on its own. Multiple contacts with outside adults. Students can conduct interviews. Students can conduct research by asking questions to people outside of the classroom. This goes back to guest speaking. Industry partners can give students feedback on drafts and iterations. If you do critiques or if you have multiple drafts throughout, industry partners can come in and give feedback so that it's not just you giving feedback to your students or your students giving feedback to each other. There's industry giving feedback as well. Giving students opportunities to observe and work alongside adults. This can look like a field trip, a job shadow, or even a workplace tour. And some of these higher up ones or lower down ones, whatever, do require funding, but there are some workarounds with that we can share. And then a culminating event with an authentic audience. This relates to having an authentic purpose for your project. If there's some kind of an exhibition of learning or a wrap up to the project that is real and involves people outside of teachers and students outside of the school, and there's an authentic audience, it raises the meaningfulness of learning. It raises your student engagement significantly. If there was one place to start, I'd say with that exhibition of learning, creating some kind of an authentic audience and purpose for your project or work that you and your students are doing. It brings in work-based learning, it brings in deeper learning for students, and it ups the engagement of your students significantly. Okay, and if anyone wants to add any other ideas, go ahead and we will look at examples of what this might look like right now. So instead of me just sharing examples with you, which I can do, and I will share a couple, I would like you all to try to find some to share with each other. So we're going to do a little scavenger hunt where you go to this site. You can either click the link or type it into a different web page or whatever. And I'll pull it up on my screen so you can see it. Give me a second. And I'll go back though so you have the link. But the website looks like this. And these are all project cards from High Tech High with projects ranging from elementary through high school. And your goal is to find a project that incorporates work-based learning and industry connections. So if I click on a card, you see all these links on the right, but they link to other project cards. And if you keep scrolling down, there's the information about the project, a little overview, teacher reflection, and student reflections. So your goal, let me go back to that link, is to find a project, just one, and share it by posting it into the chat. And you can post a link to the project with just a little brief information about what the project is or what work-based learning is involved. And the goal is that we're sharing with each other all these wonderful, great projects with links directly to them. So I can post an example to the chat so that you can see. And this link will take you directly to the card that I post, but this blue link right here takes you to the project cards page. And if you have any questions, go ahead and type it into the chat. And I'll add real world. Purpose. So I just put, oh, thanks, Colleen. There you go. Colleen posted an example too. And if you found one and you want to, if you're quick and you want to keep looking, please keep hunting, keep perusing these project cards.
I like that one. Groups are assigned to create an advertising campaign focusing on a social issue.
Yeah. Public service advertising campaign. Oh, wow. Yeah, you guys found the same one. That's funny. Huh. And I'm glad Ukiah posted the link because for some reason Colleen's link for me isn't working. But the one for Ukiah does, and it's the same project, so it's all good. Now, I'll just wait about 1 more minute for you to either look at what other people have posted or to post something else, or if you haven't posted, to share one. I have, there's a project here I really like that I'll share. I just need to find it.
Everybody wants a field trip to High Tech High.
And yes, if you haven't gone, man, you should. They actually are hosting right now like a PBL Leadership Academy for people to create projects together. There's obviously a cost to go down to High Tech High, but they're doing the Leadership Academy for free. but you do have to pay for travel, which can be a
It's a
lot
pretty
of
amazing
money.
experience. If you haven't been, um, it's pretty amazing, pretty inspirational the way they do things.
Ah, here's the soap. I love this project. Here we go. And students created the soap company. And what's awesome about the soap company project is it was chemistry students and math. Or wait, not math. I lied. Just chemistry. But they're not, I mean, they're not CTE. You have a core academic teacher who's doing these awesome, really real world relevant projects. Okay, thank you all. I hope you gained some good ideas, or at least this resource of project cards. Um, let's move on. Oh, okay, this is another one I wanted to share with you, not from High Tech High. A different school did this project, and they created birdhouses. Again, there was no CTE class involved in this project, but the reflection of these teachers, if you read more about the project on the link, they said that they would have liked either an industry person or somebody to provide more information on the construction piece. So we're working with a botanical garden and a nature preserve for this project, which is very relevant. Students were creating things for real purpose. They were sold, they were donated to the nature preserve. So really cool project. And how cool would it have been if a construction class was part of it to either teach the other students some building skills and tools, or for them to have built them themselves. I just thought it was a nice example of real world work-based learning, integration, and an opportunity where CTE could have made it even cooler and even better. So that's another project. And then if you are very visual, like I am, there's a video here for you to watch. But since it's a short little webinar, we're not going to watch it together. But there is the link here in these web links to the example project video. And it shows another really cool, authentic project and how work-based learning is involved. And at the end, students even have the opportunity to travel to Africa as part of it, which is just amazing and outstanding to me as they're learning about DNA and genetics. So cool video there for you when you have time, which we all have loads of time, right? So Angela's going to share a few other planning documents and resources. Is this biotech class? Biotech class. You know that teacher? Oh, that's awesome, Tina. Yeah, it was from San Diego. I think that project was kind of old, the teacher who did this, but yes, it's from San Diego. Maybe it's not old. Maybe they still do it. While you add in information, Tina, I'll talk about this resource. We wrote, oh, that's awesome.
Nice.
CT Online is a great resource. Thank you, Tina. That's fantastic. So this document, I'll share my screen again with you. You can click again on this image and it will open up the Google Doc version if you're interested. This is really about project planning, and it has all these little, whoops, wonderful places for you to plan out driving question and standards within your project. But there's also specific places to brainstorm or break down your work-based learning activities, your experts, community resources, adult connections as part of the project. So if you're doing high quality project-based learning, then you are incorporating work-based learning. And this project planning doc involves work-based learning and adult connections because it's an important part of high quality projects. So there's one document for you. And here you go.
Another one that I really like, we actually created this a few years ago, actually, when we had at that time work-based learning specialists that were on staff. And so we had folks that could help make some of those industry connections. And this became a planning tool that the teachers and the work-based learning specialists were able to use to kind of figure out what were the next steps. So this document allows you to actually look at your project or look at your course outline if you're not aligning it to a specific project, and break it down by lesson and figure out what makes the most sense in regards to embedding the work-based learning into it. I think that what we're hearing from industry is that they want to make sure that when we're bringing them into the classroom or we're bringing students out to them, that it's relevant, it's connected to what's happening in the classroom. And this document can help you do that because you're looking at the lessons and figuring out when does it make the most sense. So for example, if you were teaching a unit on, well, I'll use auto because I know we have an auto teacher on there. We're working right now with our auto instructor here in Napa. He's got a unit on service writing and customer service. And so rather than having us go in and teach customer service or having him talk about it, we're looking at trying to bring service writers from the industry in to do that and making it very relevant to what's happening in the classroom. We've provided these tools to you. I do want to tell you that you certainly don't have to use them. I think sometimes people think, oh, and gosh, another form. Really, it's not the form. It's not the document. It's the thought process that goes behind it. I often tell teachers, you could jot this down on a napkin and it's going to be just as effective. It's just really creating that mindset to where you're becoming very deliberate in requesting your work-based learning activities of some kind. All right, so one of the things that I noted is that one of the struggles has to do with making those industry connections, and that can be tough. It can be tough to create those partnerships. So I think the first thing is we got to look at what is a partnership. What does that mean? So the definition that we came up with is educators and business people working together toward a shared goal. We obviously want it to benefit our students, but at the same time making sure that we're also meeting the needs of our programs as well as those of our partners. And industry, they have needs too, and they're coming to us for reasons that we may not even know at the time. But if we're sitting and really developing that partnership, we're able to look at how are we benefiting them. All right, so we'll talk a little bit about what does a strong partnership look like. So I think the first thing that we've got to make sure is that we are truly partners. We're collaborating as equal. Our industry partners and us as educators are sitting at the table and discussing things, planning together. Industry wants to be involved. They want to feel like they're valued. They want to feel like they're needed. But we have to be able to tell them how to do it. So that's the first thing. The other thing is having shared or at least common interests or concerns. Quite often, what is the industry partner's concern? Their concern is, do they have a pipeline? Do they have programs in their community that are going to prepare students to come into their workforce? I think it's important that we have to continually acknowledge our partners really have something to bring to the table when it comes to planning a project or planning a course, being able to take their feedback. I used to sit in on advisory meetings where we would get feedback from employers saying, okay, we met, we discussed, we told you what we thought was important, and here we are again, and I don't see where you've incorporated those things into what you're doing. So it's really important to look at our partners and say, we want your feedback, and then be able to go back and show them what we did with that feedback. And then finally, I think it becomes important to be able to really sit down with your partners and measure your progress. If you need to go back to the drawing board, be able to have that open dialogue with them and say, oh, this didn't work quite as well as we hoped. What can we do? And set goals and then measure our outcomes from it. All right, how many of you have trouble finding partners? If you could just go ahead and use that icon at the top and raise your hand if you have trouble finding partners. Or are they just banging down your door? If they are, I want to talk to you. Okay, So let's talk a little bit about some of the ways that to find our partners. Oh, Yukaya, you're okay. You've got partners banging down your door? That's that's unusual, especially in a rural environment. Oh, there you go, your advisory committee. That's probably your first and easiest place to find them. If those partners are coming to your advisory committee meetings, they're already engaged. The trick is keeping them engaged and doing that outside of just those meetings. They want to see your students. They want to see what's happening in the classroom. So definitely use your advisory committees. I think getting them involved in the classroom will keep them engaged for years moving forward, rather than just a once or twice a year meeting. Your local business organizations, Rotary clubs, Seroptimus clubs, those are all great places to go and do a presentation. I, in the past, have done yearly talks with our local Rotary, and we're getting ready to go back. Getting on their agenda to be able to come in and you're kind of that highlighted speaker for that session. Your school district. In most of our communities, I think our school district often is one of the largest employers in the area. And so they're a great resource, and they've got several industry sectors that are covered. Industry, trade associations. If you are in a pathway that's specifically working with a trades organization of some kind, those are great resources. School alumni, another great place. We, a couple of years ago, actually here in Napa, had a student that had gone to work, Lacey, correct me if I'm wrong, but had gone to work for NASA. And that student actually did a lunchtime speaking engagement where I think it was a she, called in or Skyped in from the space station.
Yeah, at Vintage High School.
Parents and spouses. One of the things that I think is a great idea to do, if you're not already doing it, is at your back to school night at the beginning of the year, on your sign-in sheet, if you've got one, ask your parents, where do they work? What do they do? Those are great places. My husband was my biggest volunteer until he finally said, okay, I'm done. I'm not doing anymore. And then working with your local colleges. And Ukiah, I know up there, you guys have a great relationship with your community college. So being able to work with them, they can be a great resource in bringing partners to the table. Any other ideas out there of places that you've been able to uncover potential business engagement? The farmer's market. Okay. I think oftentimes it's the Chamber of Commerce. It's just a matter of getting out there. And if you just start talking to people and have business cards on you or some sort of something with your contact information. I talked to a teacher one time. She said she got information from, she was on an airplane coming back from a trip. And she got to talking to the person sitting next to her and made a connection. And that person ended up coming into the classroom later. Googling. Yeah, there's some great information we've got tons of information at our fingertips with the internet, and being able to sometimes it's just making a cold call or sending an email. All right. So one of the tools that I love in order to kind of get us to think creatively and really brainstorm is this, we call it the sphere of influence. So looking at your established network, starting in that bullseye with your closest allies. This could be, your husband, your wife, parents, grandparents, whoever you might have in that super close circle that you could reach out to, that you know that anytime you call, they're going to be there. And then branching out from there, maybe you start contacting your friends. Ask those people, who do they know? And that's a way to branch out. And so working out from that inner circle and just brainstorming is a great way to start uncovering potential partners that you may have just not even thought of. So this is a great tool to use, and we have provided you with a blank version of this. So feel free to print that off and use it. And pass it around. Pass it around to your friends and let them fill it out if you think it would be helpful. All right. Now, another couple of tools that I personally love, and I know that some of you have probably been told about this before. Nepris is a tool that I think is just one of the most valuable tools out there. Nepris is a platform that allows you to bring industry partners into your classroom virtually. So if you've got somebody, if you're working on a project, I'm sorry, my words are not coming out. If you're working on a project that you'd love to have somebody from General Motors come in and speak about, you can actually log into Nepris. It is a paid subscription service, but you do have your first session for free at any time. You can log into Nepris. You can create what we call a session request. And Nepris will actually go out and find a partner for you. So they do the recruiting for you. They have a team of recruiters that go nationwide. I think they're even international at this point. And they will actually go out and find it. The other thing that's great about Nepris is that when you are filling those session requests out, you can look and see what other people have offered. So look at another teacher who's doing something similar to yours, and you can take their request and just copy and paste it, and that'll allow you to send that out. There's also a number of industry chats that are available. I don't believe you have to be a paid member in order to participate in the industry chats, but I'm going to be honest, they've just recently changed format, so it may be a little bit different. But when you get a session with Nepris, they match you with somebody. You'll get an email, then you have an opportunity to connect directly with that person and kind of shape how you want that to look. Nepris can be used, it's a two-way conversation, so it can be used to bring a guest speaker into your classroom, but it also could be used as a platform to have your students present to that authentic audience. So having an industry partner Skyping in essentially, and having your students do a presentation to them is another great way to do it. We've also seen virtual field trips happen this way. One of the things that I heard about with Nepris when I first signed on was a tour of the GM plant, General Motors plant. So that was not a place that students would ever be allowed to go just because of liability issues. So they actually had an employee that walked the students through the assembly line with a camera, and they were able to see what was happening in the workplace that way. Any questions about Nepris? Has anybody used it? Do you have any feedback on it that you could share with the group? Somebody from Ukiah is typing. Awesome. We will definitely use Nepris this year. Again, I think it's one of those things you've got to think about it. You've got to do a little bit of planning, but hopefully if you're looking at your work-based learning and getting very deliberate in how you're delivering those opportunities to students, this will become an easy task. The other thing that we've got is the California Work-Based Learning Manual, and this was a group that came together during the era of the Career Pathways Trust Grant. We brought together about 30 people from throughout the state and developed a work-based learning manual. So this is an online interactive manual that will allow you downloadable templates. So for example, if you're looking for a guest speaker, you go into the manual, you click on guest speakers. Over on your right-hand side, these are all downloadable templates that you can use. So there's a planning timeline. It gives you a guideline of what you should be doing at what time. So maybe 3 months before, starting to plan where you want that to be. Reaching out to your partners. We've got email templates there. So I think one of the hardest things sometimes when we're reaching out to a partner is, I've been teaching all day, my words are gone, I don't know what to say. And so here you could simply cut and paste this email and contact 15 people in about 5 or 10 minutes if you wanted to. So that's another resource. We also have in some of the chapters preparation activities for the students, reflection assignments for the students. So things where you're getting that preparation and that follow-up to help them connect to what's happening in the classroom. Those tools are in there as well. So this is free. It's available. The link is in the presentation, so we definitely welcome you to use that and give us feedback on it. It's still a work in progress. It will probably always be a work in progress. And so if there's anything, there is a button on the site that you can provide feedback for. All right. Oh, Lacey, I think you're muted.
Thank you. Oh, silly. We have about 7 minutes left, so we're wrapping up, and we have another little poll. Here we go. This one you type in, so not a checkbox or anything. And we want to know what you will do. What will you do to embed work-based learning? We have Ukiah teams share that they'll use Nepris. What else? What else can you do to make your projects more relevant, or to embed work-based learning activities or more industry contacts for your students? So this school year, what will you do, or what will you try to do? And you should be able to type your answer into this little poll. Your responses to this are anonymous, and then they'll show up as you type. Versus the chat, when we see who said what, this one's totally anonymous.
Great. Collaborate with other academic teachers. I think that is so important if you can make it happen, and very powerful.
For sure. And easier to have like an industry person come for you and a math teacher than just you, and then maybe the math teacher wants them too. If you're collaborating, it's even better. Industry contacts via parents, Rotary Club, and Chamber of Commerce. Nice. That's a great thought.
To not worry about filling out forms, but instead create a mindset of trying to be deliberate. Absolutely. And I think that's, if I was going to hit anything home in this webinar, it's don't get caught up in the dotting the I's and crossing the T's unless it comes to things that could cause liability. But when you're planning, do what works for you.
Encourage and support CTE teachers to embed work-based learning into their projects. More exhibitions of learning, I love it, and bringing in authentic audience. Yeah, I think that's fantastic. Making the work students are doing relevant and real by making it authentic and incorporating adults. Good. Anyone else going once? Going twice? Okay, I'm going to hide this away. If you have another thought, feel free to throw it into the chat.
All right, so we've given you a lot of information in a short amount of time. And so my question to you now is, what further resources and or coaching would you like to see around project-based learning or work-based learning, industry engagement? What is it going to take for you to be able to move your work forward? And is there something that we can do as your technical assistance provider to help keep that work moving forward with your teachers?
Yep, Angela and I are here to provide assistance, whether it's meeting with any of you or your teachers to brainstorm, to plan, to coach, or to come and do a workshop with you or your school site or your team. We are here to provide assistance and help you.
Sometimes just having a thought partner to walk your ideas through, to run your ideas past is helpful.
And we'll give you a minute to think. I see some people are typing, but if you can't think of anything right now because you're just absorbing, that's totally okay. We're going to share our contact information with you, and you are welcome to reach out to us at any time with any questions, and we're here to support you. Workshop on collaboration between CTE and academic
We,
teachers.
we
Yes,
actually
Ukaya.
have a
I'm
session
going to make
coming
it.
up on that. I believe in October. It's a little far for Ukiah, but we 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 definitely can look at doing something with your folks. You know what? Well, I'm not sure where. I can't remember. I want to say Contra Costa County.
I think it might be in our next slide or two. I do plan to contact you and pick your brains on teacher trainings, as I would like to start offering them through SMCOE. Nice. Ukaya said where. We'll get back to you. Yeah, I have what I need to get started, but I'm sure additional needs will emerge over time. Perfect. That's why we're here. Please don't hesitate to reach out.
And we do have, just so you know, as technical assistance providers, if there is a workshop that we're offering and it's too far, if you've got the audience and the need, we definitely can put something together specifically for your district or for your area if you're a county office. So don't hesitate to let us know that.
And we are coming up on 4:30, so if you need to leave, please feel free to do so. But we got started a few minutes late, so we might go a minute or two over, but please feel free to leave. We will send a follow-up email with all of the resources and a survey link. This slide has links to all of the resources for you. I won't go into that. And then here's the upcoming PD. Angela was right. The Contra Costa is where that integrated curriculum mapping is. And that's pretty much it. We can leave any of these slides up. If anyone wants to stay on because they have questions and answers, a lot of you are saying goodbye and thank you. So I don't know, but if anyone wants to stay on, we can talk to you. And will you include a link to the recorded webinar? Yes, in our email follow-up, we will. And that includes, and I'll put it up. I had it up a minute ago. It includes a survey because we love feedback and improving. So feedback survey is linked here, and we will link the recording of this. Yes.
And we will send this all out via email as well. It may be Monday before we get it out to you, but we will definitely send the recording as well as links to some of these resources out to you.
Do you want to leave up this page or our contact?
Probably, yeah.
Okay. And some of you are still on, so if you have any questions, please feel free. You can have one-on-one consultation right now. Or maybe you walked away from your computer and you're just logged on, which is fine too. But look, we have one left and Miguel's typing, so I'm eagerly anticipating what you have to say, Miguel. I wonder if this is what people felt like when they wrote letters and had to wait like months for a response.
Awesome. Thank you, Miguel.
Oh, no problem.
And again, we'll send this out to you. So if you don't get everything down, you'll get an email from us for sure.
But take your time. We'll stay on as long as you're on. And I threw all the resources into the Google folder so we can share a link to that when we email everyone out as well.
All right.
Okay. Oh, I should have stopped recording.